Hey guys, Blair here from the Florida Cracker. I want to invite y'all on a little journey with me through the state. The past 7 years, me and my brother have met a lot of great folks. They've invited us into their families, onto their ranches, into their cow pens, into their farms. And one thing I noticed in this time frame is the stories that go along when you're sitting around chatting about the old Florida life, what a Florida Cracker means. And so we decided to take a camera, go out and get these folks on camera in their natural settings and let them tell some of these stories and capture that history. And some of the stuff you will get a good chuckle out of. Some of it's very educational, and some of it you just got to decide if you're going to believe it or not. But guys, tune in to Florida Cracker Tales. It'll be on all of our social media platforms, and come along for this journey. I promise you will enjoy it.
I grew up around citrus groves, hoeing trees, picking fresh oranges, having orange fights with my brothers, all of that. Great things that so many children don't get to do anymore. My uncle, so it would be my great uncle, he was known for coming through the little town of Geneva, where I was born and raised in Seminole County, driving cattle to the railroad depot there and cracking his cow whip. And then the kids at the school would know that the cattle were coming, and they would all come out to the balcony where they could see the cattle be driven right down the road. He wore a top hat, is how they were able to tell which person was my Uncle William at that time. But cracking that whip right there is where the Florida Cracker came from. Letting cattle hear you from miles and miles away. And it's at the end of a whip, and I carry one on my saddle, and my grandson had one tied on his saddle today for the first time. It is something that is a historical name for us. It's not derogatory in any way, because it came from the end of that cow whip. The one I carry on my saddle was given to me when I was 16 years old by my dad. I have walked many a mile finding that whip because it has fallen off of my saddle. But when he gave it to me, it's nylon, and it's not made out of buckskin like the old ones were. I can remember watching my dad sit in the barn and rubbing his old buckskin whip with tallow, with grease, and preserving it. And he said that when he bought my whip for me, that he was gonna make mine be nylon, because that way I could drag it through the water and it wouldn't hurt it, and I wouldn't get in trouble. and of a morning in the dew time, when you're dragging your whip. Kids have a tendency to drag their whip more than adults, but it's something that's a part of us. And as I said, I have it on my saddle now, and this is the one my dad gave me 10 years ago.
And that's survivor. He's a survivor. He can get anything thrown at him and come back and make it. He can survive. Now, Florida Cracker is a person that's probably been here 6 generations or more. They've been here, they got 40, 60 years in buying this property. And, they've just been here and working the land and tilling the land and making what they can and raising their families. It's like the mom and pa gas stations, the mom and pa restaurants, the small businessmen. That's what they are. I mean, they're not all cattle people. They're not all farmers. They have went spread out, to turn into grocery store owners, restaurant owners, but they're still here, their roots is here, and they're doing this for what they know and how they was raised. And that's a Florida Cracker. You got to be here 40 years, I say, to be a Florida Cracker and understand what it means to be a Florida Cracker. I mean, it's you got roots that go deep. It's just where we live at. This month, we've owned that piece of property 150 years. We've been there. My ancestors, for my grandmother, my great grandparents, you're there, and money. I mean, you can sell it for money, but we're not looking for the money. Our family gave a lot for that. They put a lot into it, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It was nothing easy back then. I've got pictures of when my grandmother was a little girl, and she'd be 116 or 17, and I got pictures of her standing inside of virgin pines that you couldn't reach around. And they cut and cleared all that by hand with mules and cross-cut saws. There wasn't no chainsaws, wasn't no trucks. It was all hand cleared by hand. And I mean, your ancestors put that kind of work and effort into a piece of ground, you want to keep it. It's nothing I don't want to see people just squatting all over it.
It's different than a lot of people. A lot of people take being called a Florida cracker as derogatory or racist. A Florida cracker, in a Florida cracker's own words, is an individual that was born in the state of Florida. It didn't matter if it was in 1860, 1900, 1925, or 1946. A Florida cracker is somebody that was born and bred in the state of Florida. So being a Florida cracker to me is a compliment. Somebody calls me a cracker, I love it. I don't think it's derogatory, but it just it shows that people recognize that I am a true Floridian, multi-generational. So being a Florida cracker and having the name Florida cracker, one of the best names you could have ever picked out, because people respect being born and bred in Florida. A lot of people, you can't pick where you're born. I was just lucky enough by the grace of God to be born a Florida cracker.
For a goal, if it's just for a paycheck or if it's to clear this pasture, you don't get a check out of clearing a pasture, that'll come later. But it's a person that gets up and works hard every day and then goes home every night. That, it may be 5 o'clock or it may be 9 o'clock, but a guy that gets up every day and works hard and then goes home to see his family. That's a Florida cracker to me.
Yeah, Florida cracker to me is just like that. It's somebody that's willing to put in the work and know they're not going to get dividends from it today. It's gonna pay off in 2 or 3 years, but you're willing to invest that time and effort into it to know it's going to come back and be good for you. Because most things in this kind of life, you don't see it the next day. You see it in a couple of years. Yeah.
When I was a little boy, I didn't know any better. I actually thought it was racist and derogatory, and that's what people still think, but they've got this thing totally backwards. There's nothing derogatory about it. The term Florida cracker came from back in the day when they first started gathering cattle and working cattle in South Florida. That was a name given to those men because of the sound that their whip would make. They were popping their whip, they were cracking their whip. That's where the name came from. There is nothing derogatory about it. That's exactly where it came from. But people have turned it around from both sides.